Our Texas state government has a ton of power, and it often really goes overlooked. Why does it have so much power? A lot of it comes from the United States Constitution, and then also the Texas Constitution itself provides quite a bit of power to our state government. So what's one of the biggest things? Voting laws. I think the COVID pandemic really shone a light on just how abysmal voting rights, voting suppression are in the state of Texas. And then you saw with the Ken Paxton lawsuit that got handily dismissed, how each state really is the only state that has control over its own voting rights. So tons and tons of power there. States also draw legislative district maps. That's state Senate, state House, U.S. Congress, and multiple others. And I think all of us have probably seen how wonky a lot of our maps are and how you can maybe drive 45 minutes in one direction, like I can drive up to where John lives, and we're in the same district. I can walk a few blocks east and a few blocks west and be in two separate districts outside of my own. So another way to suppress voting rights. Then this next one is a huge one, and Alex has a whole section on this. But the legislature controls the state budget, and the Texas GDP is higher than the entire country of Russia. So we have a ton of money, and we can encourage and push our state government to do good things with that money, expand public pre-K, invest in public education and higher ed. We could pass Medicaid expansion. We could improve healthcare coverage for the children of Texas, and infrastructure, and a whole list of other things that we could do. So that's something that Antoinette mentioned. We really want to push for servant leadership from our state and push for them to help Texans, not just special interests. And then the legislation they pass can either help or hurt Texans. We've seen a lot of things in the past get passed by our state that's clearly unconstitutional. Sometimes it gets overturned by SCOTUS with a new SCOTUS. Unclear if there'll be that backstop for us again or not. But sometimes even when SCOTUS stops it, the damage has been done because it takes years to get up there. But 4 pretty basic things to know about the ledge. We say the ledge, that's shorthand for the Texas state legislature. I know we use a lot of jargon in activism. You'll also see a lot the TX ledge, the ledge, or on Twitter it's hashtag TXLEGE. There's 2 chambers, much like the U.S. Congress. We have a state Senate House and a state House of Representatives. However, differently than the federal government, each of us is represented by 1 state representative and 1 state senator. So not all of us have the same 2 senators in the state House as we do in the U.S. Senate. This is the thing that drives a curveball for my brain with the government here. Our state government for the entire state only meets every other year for 140 days. So it's a whirlwind of a 140 days. By the end of it, a lot of us feel like we know a ton about it. And then in the next year and a half, we forget a lot of that stuff and have to relearn it. So as I said, don't feel bad if you're not an expert. It's hard to retain things that you don't look at for a year and a half. So the upcoming session is going to start January 12th, and then it ends on May 31. So pretty quick session. And then I think a lot of folks have heard about special sessions, and it's interesting that the legislature, the body itself, cannot call a special session. Only the governor has that power. And it's always shocked me when he has chosen to call or not call a special session. So here's the makeup of the Texas state government. It's bicameral, so you'll see the Senate on the left, State House on the right. The red dots represent Republicans, blue are Democrats. And this is from the 86th legislature, which was 2019. And I think most folks can recall in 2018, we were able to flip 12 of those House seats. Back in the 2017 legislature, I think a lot of us remember some of the crazy things that were going on. Lots of talk about bathrooms and show me your papers and things. And then after all those seats flipped in 2018, the Republican Party kind of woke up and said, oh my gosh, people don't like these antics. We need to step up and actually do some nuts and bolts legislating. So you started hearing them talk about property taxes and education funding and things that most of us actually care about. So obviously we have the governor, Greg Abbott, who signs or vetoes bills that go through the body. Dan Patrick, though, arguably is even more powerful than Greg Abbott because he controls the state Senate and gets to decide what comes to a vote on the floor or not. So much like Mitch McConnell, he stops a lot of good legislation from going through. Not super clear why, but anyway, I could go on all day about him. And then the Speaker of the House is elected by the entire body of the House and obviously comes from the majority party. Likely will be Dave Phelan, and similar powers as Dan Patrick has from the Senate, makes committee appointments, gets to determine what is going to come to the floor for voting. So how does a bill become a law? The Monday after Election Day, legislators can start filing bills that early, and then that process goes through March 12th. So now's the time to call up your friendly legislator and say, hey, I really care about this issue. Let's put in a bill. Then in January, after they gavel in and the speaker is confirmed and committees are assigned, then the bills start going to those committees. When they get into committee, the committee chair can decide, are they going to hear it? Is it going to die? Are we going to put it on the list for later in the session? And that's where we really have a great opportunity to make an impact. Unlike at the federal level, we are encouraged to reach out to representatives who are not our own. So you'll see from us a lot of calls to action during the session to call a committee chair, call members of the committee, and then also at the same time, call your own rep. So that's a big difference from the federal government. Texas is considered kind of a friendly legislative body still. And so we really want to take advantage of that while it lasts, because I don't think Allen West wants it to continue. But then if it does pass the committee, it'll go to that chamber, much like the U.S. Congress. It has to pass both of the chambers with similar language. It is interesting once it's on the floor for debate, a lot of changes can happen there, sometimes in the middle of the night. So it's important to stay on top of those things. Once it is passed by both chambers, it goes to the governor and he can sign it, not sign it, or veto it. And then a unique thing is once the session ends, the governor still has some time to sign or veto a bill. And so if he vetoes it once the session's over, there can't be an override. How can you get involved? So our group statewide, we know a lot of you are in more local groups. And so we're trying to really help all the local groups not have to reinvent the wheel and do all of this on top of all the other work you already do. So you can take action on our calls to action. We send out a weekly newsletter, and these can be things from calling your rep, telling a friend, writing a letter to the editor, all sorts of things. You can schedule regular district office visits. Sharon's going to get into this more. It's just like at the, your U.S. Congress or Senator level. However, these representatives represent far fewer folks than those U.S. level representatives. So they're public servants. They got to hear from us. And it takes a lot heavier of a lift to influence at the state level than the U.S. You can join an issue huddle. So we organize by issues if you care about education, healthcare, environment, voting rights, all sorts of things. Join an issue huddle. This is how we really help get some folks focusing on certain bills, certain issues to push change at our state level. And then you can also follow bills on your own if that's something you're interested in at the TLO, and we'll send out a link. But you can make an account, put in your preferences, and then you can get updates on bills and committee hearings that are important to you. So take action now. I mentioned our emails already. If you ever have content you want to add in there, send it our way. You can find us all over social media. Contact your state reps. It's a great time to get in touch with them ahead of session or early in the session before they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off. So make sure they know what's important to you. And then this last item on here is creating your rapid response 5. So these are the 5 people in your life who care about what our government does, but maybe they're not already involved. They're not already, in an organization where they're doing work, but they care. And so whenever there's a big call to action that we need folks, boots on the ground, calls being made, these are the 5 people in your phone who you'll text, call, however they like to be communicated to, and say, hey, this is happening. I need you to do this right now. And they'll say, yeah, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm on it. Thank you. We can't get a lot of work done unless we amplify, and that's one of the ways to do it. I think just even telling your friends that this is happening, that the state government is meeting, will go a long way just to spread awareness.